Welcome to Geeks Worldwide presents Press Any Key. I'm, of course, your host, Michael Schluger, and this is episode 289. We have a fantastic show for you. All of us have been very busy with various things, so there was no show last week. So we have last week news, the big hits to talk about, and this week news to talk about. But we're gonna start off by introducing the crew, which I have not done. You can see I'm out of practice here. With us, we have Yahel.
Hello, I'm having a great day. I had a Four Loko when I came home, and I didn't tell you guys this. I also played Cybermorph a little bit when I got home.
Wow,
That explains it.
I'm ready.
I knew it.
Two throwbacks.
I'm ready.
Not one, but two throwbacks. I like that.
And that other lovely dulcet tone is our very own Connor Howard.
The one and only. Thank you. Good to be here. How are we all doing out there? Thanks for joining us.
Very good, very good. I'm actually quite happy to be back, doing the show because last week was kind of crazy. But let's jump into it because so much to discuss. First, we have a quick update for you, and this involves the Shadow of War charity DLC. So if you guys aren't in the loop, basically one of the developers for Shadow of War unfortunately passed away during the development cycle to cancer. And so to honor him, what they did was they had announced they were releasing special DLC where they had taken him and turned him into a character in the game. And if you purchased the DLC, the majority of the purchase, something like 90% of the purchase price, would go towards helping his family. What happened was two things. Apparently, some states in the U.S. have laws that would have prevented the family from receiving the money. And also, and I didn't know this at the time when we talked about this, internationally, if you were in a different country and you purchased this DLC, all the money would go to Warner Brothers and not the family, like all of it. And so, people read the fine print. They saw this, they got upset, understandably so, and start speaking up about it. And so Warner Brothers has decided to change things around. It is now going to be free DLC. Everyone's gonna just get this for free. And instead, Warner Brothers just made a donation to the family, which I think is the right thing to do. I think that's sort of the best solution to the situation, right?
I agree.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I imagine their hearts were in the right place. I mean, it's not like either of those companies are hurting for money.
Yes.
So I highly doubt that they were trying to squeeze a few dollars this way, So, Warner Brothers gets a lot of flack for a lot of things, rightfully so in most cases, but I think they did the right thing and should be commended for being human beings, I guess.
It's true. Go ahead.
It was sorry, go ahead, Mike. No, it was a great gesture, I think, to begin with. And it's really nice to see companies. That's great. And they were making DLC anyway. So, if they were going to make money off of it and dedicate it to a deceased colleague at the same time, that's whatever. But I think making it free and making a donation was kind of the right thing to do from the get-go also. And I'm glad they...
Yes, and if you really like the game, there is an actual fundraiser for the family, so you can just donate directly to the family for the link. We'll have the link. It's under youcaring.com, and the developer's name was Michael 4G. I hope I'm not butchering that too bad, but we'll have the link. And you can play the game, see if you like it, and then donate, or you can just donate straight up. It's totally up to you. We won't judge. Now we're gonna do something a little different.
Whatever you want to do.
We're gonna do something a little different this episode, and we're gonna start off with the what the fuck story. Instead of doing our what the fuck stories at the end, we had a brilliant idea to start with it. So I'm gonna start with Xbox here. So recently, the Navy asked its sailors, I guess, what it could do. Yep. Yeah, what it could do to make their life easier. And the answer was resonated loud and clear. They hated using a $38,000 joystick system developed by Lockheed Martin, which controlled the periscope on Virginia-class submarines. I didn't bother to Google this, but did anyone take a look to see how big Virginia-class submarines are?
I mean, I guess they're big enough to hold a $38,000 joystick.
I think they're pretty big. These are really, really big submarines. Each submarine alone costs a couple of $1 billion, and they're like 800 plus feet. No, I lied.
I think they're classified technically as fast attack submarines, so I think they're on the slightly medium to smaller side of underwater, warships.
From what
I was looking, I was looking at the wrong number here. They're 377 feet long. Still pretty big.
Yeah.
So the solution to this $38,000 joystick system was an Xbox One controller. That is the replacement. That's what they're going with.
Now, do you think they would have actually preferred a PS4 controller?
That's a good question.
I know I would have.
Why? I think most people would be accustomed to a PS4 controller.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Listen, I think it's still a step up in the right direction, but what of course, what boggles my mind is what goes into a 38,000 joystick system. Like, it's a joystick.
Bribes.
I mean, bribes.
I assume.
Kickbacks, I guess.
It's got to be juicy government contract dollars. That's what it is. Juicy government contract money. That's all I found. That sweet government contract money, man.
It's actually just a Steam controller with like Lockheed's logo on it.
Yeah, so
they really ignored the obvious solution of just using a keyboard and mouse. I think.
Obviously, that's the
they don't want to have an unfair advantage against other countries that we've sold Lockheed Martin third controllers to.
So now, despite this thing being $38,000, the soldiers described it as being very clunky and difficult to operate. And I mean, like, this just operates the periscope. Like how do you fuck this up? It goes up and down, left and right. Like, what else do you need the periscope to do?
I watch Popeye cartoons. Yeah.
What else happens there, right? But apparently, you're saying?
Was the sensitivity off or something like that? They couldn't change the sensitivity settings. It was just freaking out or something like that.
That probably, the sensitivity settings probably cost an extra $50,000. So.
But in all seriousness, it's a lot easier for them. It's I guess the article implies that it's the controller that they wanted, and it's an Xbox 360 controller.
Oh, is it 360? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a 360 controller.
Oh, you're right. It's 360. Yes.
An Xbox One controller, so even cheaper.
Even cheaper.
So I'd be curious to see what the Lockheed Martin controller looked like.
Well, so the really interesting thing is Lockheed Martin actually released a statement saying that they supported the Navy's decision, which I think is
what are they going to do? Say fuck the Navy? Like, that's like, they're not going to say fuck the armed forces. Like, they need them to buy their shit.
Well, that's true, but then it's like, how is it that your super fancy technology is rendered obsolete with an Xbox 360 controller of all things?
Yeah, Lockheed Martin should have just shut the fuck up, I think, on this one. I don't know if that's a Four Loko talking, but that would have been what I would have done. I mean, come on.
Lockheed Martin basically already owns the government. So, because they make everything for everybody right now. They make all our bombs. They make half our planes. Like, I think they'll be fine without that joystick contract. I think they'll make it.
Probably.
They're basically Stark Industries, like in the real world.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yes. So if you want to hear more What the Fuck stories, there are more. You just have to wait because they're coming. I promise. We are going to switch gears and talk about our top story, or one of our top stories for the week. Since we're talking about Xbox, let us talk about Phil Spencer. So Phil Spencer, he is the head of the Xbox division at Microsoft, and he recently got a promotion.
Yay!
Right? That's right. So he was added to.
Congratulations, Phil.
That's right. Congratulations to Phil. He recently got added to the senior leadership team, which is a 16-person group that's made up of executives and board of directors members that basically make, it's what it sounds like. They make the senior leadership decisions for Microsoft. And I was really surprised by this. Prior to this, Phil Spencer had reported directly to the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella. But the question I want to throw out there is, does Phil deserve the promotion? Because Xbox not doing so hot, right? And Phil has been around for a little while, but what do you guys think? Did he deserve this promotion?
I think if you're a consumer, you would say no. But by the same token, we don't know everything that's going on behind the scenes at the corporate level. I don't know. Maybe they were projected to lose X amount of money, and now they're going to lose 5 million less or something like you never know. So maybe that's why he's getting it, because the Xbox isn't doing as terrible as they thought it would be doing at this point. Even though I can't fucking imagine that scenario.
Now.
I don't know, man.
So to give you guys a little sort of frame of reference here, right? Phil got promoted to head of Xbox in late March 2014. So the Xbox One went on sale when? Was it 2013 or 14? I'm trying to remember. Let's see.
Clearly don't remember.
I want to say
2013.
14.
No, 13. So Xbox One,
13, okay.
Yeah. So Xbox One released November 22nd, 2013. So he was there before that, right? So Phil had worked at Microsoft since 1988, so he definitely put in the time. But would you guys say that he has done a good job of guiding Xbox One? I mean, I certainly think he has done some things right. Considering the disaster that was the Xbox One when it first came out. But I would say that there's a lot of work left to be done, right?
I think their market share would agree with you.
You sounded...
Speaking as, from my bias as a Sony fan, I got to say that, there's nothing impressive about the Xbox One, so I can't really think of anything that he's succeeded at in that context. But I think you had a great point where it's, in the inner workings of Microsoft, maybe he has been meeting or exceeding some internal expectations that, add up to him getting promoted. It's hard to see from my standpoint, just because I haven't cared about Xbox in a long time, but it's feasible. It's possible that he deserved it.
And
from,
now
from the inside.
This may be something where
maybe
he's being groomed for something else. And honestly, at this point,
right.
And this sounds silly to say, because if you think about the lifetime of a console, it's the PS4 and Xbox One are still pretty early, right, in their life cycle.
Are they?
Well,
they're at the halfway point right now.
I don't know,
but they're extending their life by.
I think so. Yeah.
The PS4,
well, yeah, we've got the yes.
They're not at the end. So
no.
I would, the fact that
Sure.
the Xbox One isn't doing as well as you would think Microsoft wanted it to do, maybe they're just grooming him for something else, or Microsoft maybe has given up on the Xbox One. If anybody can give up on a multi-billion-dollar console and just say, fuck it, we're gonna plan for the next one, and maybe he's got some great idea for that. Maybe that's why he's there. Who knows? Like we don't know what's going on. Microsoft, people give them a lot of shit, but there's a reason why they've been around for as long as they have been, as profitable as they have been. I don't think they're gonna, not that they can't make
because they're a monopoly.
I don't think that's fair to say they're a monopoly. I mean, there's plenty of choices.
Advocate.
But I don't know, man. Look, I don't think the guy's done shit, but I don't know everything behind the scenes. But as a consumer, it seems like he should be fired, if anything.
Yeah, because here's the thing, right? Even though he became head of Xbox in 2014, he was the general manager of Microsoft Studios. and then he became he was the general manager of Microsoft Studios back in around 2008, 2009, and then became a vice president a little bit later, around 2010. So, I mean, he was definitely there in those meetings when the initial planning stages of the Xbox One were coming together. I definitely think he has made a lot of course corrections. We're seeing backwards compatibility being pushed. I'm pretty sure he is the big force behind the Xbox One X, for better or worse. I think Microsoft has done a fairly good job of responding to customers since that disastrous launch, but unfortunately, it just hasn't been enough to, get things back on track as much as they would like, I think. Yeah. But we'll see. I don't know. Yeah. I can't believe that he's been groomed for anything else. I'd be really surprised if that was the case.
From the outside looking in, it's certainly surprising to hear that the guy in charge of Xbox has been given any more duties or responsibilities of any sort, let alone money.
Yeah, for sure.
But no, listen, Phil, we wish you the best of luck. We want to see you succeed, right? Competition is a good thing. Even though we rag on Xbox a little bit, but
I'm always rooting for Microsoft, that underdog.
I know, right?
Clunky underdog.
It's true. It's true. But let's move on. Our next story involves. Let's do. I think we. Oh no, we have two Nintendo stories. The other one. Yeah. All right. Let's do Fortnite. Let's talk about that real quick. So, very interesting thing happened. This is a story from last week, but still very important to talk about. Basically, Epic, who is the developer of Fortnite, proved, accidentally, I think, that crossplay was possible. Basically, a bunch of people that were playing Fortnite saw that people that they were playing with had weird naming conventions. And by that, I mean Xbox, when you set up your username, Xbox allows spaces and PlayStation does not, right? It's weird, but it is what it is. And they were playing with characters, other players in their games had spaces. So they knew that these people were Xbox users and not PC users, by the way. And long story short, once this was pointed out, Epic fixed it. So there's no more crossplay there. But for a short time I would assume like 2-3 days, it was a thing. So the question I want to ask you guys, why do you think PlayStation, because it's clearly PlayStation, is so against crossplay?
Well, the obvious answer for me, like first thought, is just if PlayStation owners can play with friends or whatever who own Xboxes, there's less incentive for people to buy PS4s. I don't know. It doesn't quite follow logically, but like I'm sure the thinking is just like we might sell fewer units if this is an institutionalized practice of crossplay. That's probably what the higher ups of Sony are thinking, or at least that's part of it. That's my first thought.
I agree with you 100%. And I kind of feel the same thing. Like when you say it out loud, it almost sounds kind of silly, but there are like a lot of great deals on Xbox Ones, and if I can play Overwatch on Xbox One with my PS4 friends or like whatever other multiplayer game, I want to play, like, and I can save $100-$150, like whatever, why not?
Yeah, not to sound like a broken record, but I think you guys are 110% correct as well. I do think the reasons are economic. And what I really think of it is that, and I know it sounds a little cynical of me, but I feel like Sony is keeping this in their back pocket in case they ever do anything that pisses people off, right? Like, because right now Sony more or less has people's goodwill. People aren't really mad at Sony for any particular thing. They're doing a pretty good job overall. And I feel like as soon as they fuck up with something, and it's bound to happen, then they'll be like, oh yeah, and we're introducing crossplay. Because at the end of the day, as we briefly mentioned, these consoles are more or less halfway through their life cycle. And even though new units are still being sold, absolutely, especially during the holiday season, I think obviously the numbers are far less than it was the first 2, 3, 4 years of the life cycle. And
I'm sorry, Mike, just kind of speaking to your point about Sony having something in their back pocket, like what's to prevent Microsoft from saying like, hey, we're going to let people play, multiplayer stuff without having to pay for an Xbox Live subscription. So now people can play for free on Xbox versus paying for like, PS Live, PSN Live, or whatever it's called. So I don't know, man. Like, what does PlayStation have to gain from allowing it besides goodwill, which they already have, like you mentioned?
They don't have anything to gain.
So why do it? Whereas Xbox, of course, they're promoting it.
Yeah,
they have nothing to lose, man. They're grasping at straws. Like I almost wonder if they're promoting Phil to make it seem like Xbox is doing great.
That's an interesting idea.
Probably not true.
It's an interesting theory.
That's the Four Loko and Cybermorph talking.
Very possible. Very possible.
Right.
We're going to keep an eye on this.
Gotta be careful with those things.
That's right. I'm going to keep an eye on this one. I feel like there is some pressure mounting to make this a thing, but again, until PlayStation, until Sony feels like they need this to somehow earn some goodwill, I don't think it'll happen. But moving on, let us talk about Nintendo. We got 2 Nintendo stories for you. The first one is this came out last week, but still worth very much noting. A bunch of, I guess, what would you call these people? Hackers? If hackers is even the right term, but a bunch of enthusiasts, shall we say, of the Switch were digging around in the OS, and they basically found a emulated NES game, a golf game. Literally, I think it's NES Golf, right? Is that what it's called? Yeah, NES Golf. And they knew it was a thing, but they realized that it could be activated somehow. And the hunt began to figure this thing out. And the answer is pretty freaking interesting. Basically, the game is designed to be played. It's on all Switches. If you own a Switch, you have this game. But you can only play it on a certain day of the year. And that day is, I think, July 11th. July 11th. That's when Satoru Iwata passed away.
Huh.
He was, of course, Nintendo's late president, or last president. And he had, that was the day he passed away, and he had a very famous motion. If you ever watched the Nintendo Directs, he would always make this motion where he would go like this and then extend his arms outward as he was starting things off. And that is the motion that you have to make with your Joy-Con controllers. And if you do that on July 11th, it will launch this game, which will work natively with the motion technology of your Joy-Cons. Which is pretty... That's like a great way to honor... He worked on this game, by the way, in case that's not clear.
It's an awesome tribute.
Yes, it's an awesome tribute. And the only interesting thing is
that is one of the coolest Easter eggs I've ever heard of.
What I'm curious is, because obviously Nintendo didn't want to talk about this. July 11th has passed. They didn't mention this at all. I wonder if this was something that was only meant to be known as a cool Easter egg for, internal employees, or, if they were saving it for something else. But regardless, that's super cool.
I don't know, man. I don't know what benefit they would get out of not letting people know about it. Maybe they wanted it to be found organically closer to July. I bet Nintendo, if anything, is more upset about the way it was discovered. And
yeah, so I mean, once it was found out, then people just started sort of, everyone loves a good mystery. So people just started,
probably.
Trying to get it to work any way they could. And the interesting thing is that if you manually change your clock to July 11th, it will not work.
Right.
Because there is a second internal clock that is in the Switch that is synced up if you ever connect it to the internet. So
yeah, I think like you have to like completely like let the battery run out or something to like get it to reset for X amount of time or something like that. Yeah.
So unless you've never ever connected your Switch to the internet, not even once, switching it to July 11th will not work for you. And you could try your Hell's method where you let the battery die, but
probably won't work.
Probably won't work either, to be honest. But yeah, still, the thing is,
it's Conrad's on
Nintendo
like,
and their secret second clocks.
Right? Only Nintendo. No, I'm sure the other companies.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know what that is. I'm like late.
Yeah, you got a slight delay on your conversation.
Okay, I had a girlfriend like that. Got rid of
I was going to
answer the mail from the government.
I was going to say that, I don't think Nintendo wants people to find out about this one because obviously, July 11th isn't that long ago, relatively speaking. And now that people said from Nintendo.
Mike, I wonder a little bit if it's not so much that Nintendo didn't want people to know about it, but there's been Nintendo's got a lot of flack about shortages, with the Switch, and people have complained about like who gets it when and like it's such short notice. Maybe Nintendo was like, we don't want to like advertise something like, hey, there's this great tribute to this man that like so many Nintendo fans loved, and you can't access it because you don't have a Switch because we didn't make enough. Like maybe they just didn't feel like it was the right time. Maybe next July they'll make a big deal out of it. So I kind of wonder if that played into it a little bit, where like they kind of painted themselves into a corner a little bit. So even if they wanted to like publicize it, it would have seemed like assholes in a way.
I mean, I don't know. I think it all depends on how they went about doing it. I think there would have been a respectful way to publicize it.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point that there is a bit of a shortage. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, their heart is in the right place. This is a really, really sweet tribute to a man that was incredibly influential for Nintendo. And I do hope that, because this is one of those things where, if you're not like a big gamer who like constantly reads gaming news, you miss this, right? Like you don't know about it. So I do hope that, next July 11th, we do see this kind of crop up and that everyone gets a chance to, experience the game together.
Well, we'll fucking see.
Yeah.
I blame the 4 logo for everything from here on out. I feel like it just took over me.
Damn you, 4 logo!
I was like, I told myself I'm gonna hold out to this story.
That's smart. That's smart.
Our other Nintendo story, kind of interesting. Also, not very surprising if you know anything about Nintendo. A mod has shown up online. I think it was done from a Patreon, right? Yeah, it was Patreon, where this person modified Super Mario 64 to allow multiple players. I think up to 24 players could run around and play the game together. And of course, this made Nintendo very, very angry, and they issued a DMCA. They do this a lot, right? Where anytime anyone tries to innovate anything that they've done in the past, they always are like, no, you can't play with our toys. You can only play the way we say you can play. And that always really bothered me about Nintendo. Like, it's a 20-year-old game, if not more, right? When
yeah.
Super Mario
I mean, Nintendo it's so strange because for such a company that was considered to be so innovative, for so long, and at least in terms of gameplay, if not like maybe console power, but like they just can't fucking get with the times.
Yeah.
They just can't. And the thing is, like, Nintendo probably has the most goodwill generated out of any video game publisher, developer, console manufacturer, however you want to think of them, out of anyone ever. But that shit's running out. Like people, like I see online, people complain about them more and more. They read about how they've treated like third-party developers in the past, in particular. I see them complaining about that more and more. Nintendo's time is running out, and I'm going to be drinking a Four Loko over their grave.
I know. I feel like they've won some goodwill back with the Switch, but it's like, why are you getting? No. I don't know. I've seen.
I have a Switch. It sucks.
I mean, I'm not crazy about it, but what I'm saying is, what I'm saying, online,
I kind of agree with Mike. I think they might have.
Online, from what I've seen, the general reception perception of the Switch has been positive. I think those of us that are older, more hardcore gamers are not happy with it, and there's many reasons why that we've talked about for many times. I'm not going to reiterate here. But I think the casual person who missed out on the Wii U and maybe thought the Wii U was just like an expansion port for the Wii or something like that, to them, this is fucking amazing.
The Switch is a great portable device. It's a shit home console.
Fair enough.
It's inconvenient. Maybe that's the better way to put it. It's an inconvenient home console. Anyway, that's not what the story's about. I apologize.
Yeah, but my getting back to what we were talking about, I mean, this is a 20-year-old game. Super Mario 64 came out in 1996. All right, it has been sold and resold after that numerous times. So if a couple of thousand people, because let's be honest here, it's not like everyone with the Switch is going to go out and get the mod to this thing and play it. It's really only a tiny subset of people that are ever going to see or experience this mod. To see Nintendo get its panties in a twist is just, they just come out looking like assholes every time.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think Nintendo's more of a thong man. They don't want any. They're very particular. They don't want any lines showing. But
I believe it.
I agree, man. Like I just don't understand what they get from this, except people being upset with it.
Yeah, I don't know. And the Patreon page that was, doing these sort of mods is gone. The guy took it down. Yeah. So good job, Nintendo. You destroyed another person that was trying to have a little fun.
And I believe that the guy that made it, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, didn't he say when he posted that he knew Nintendo was going to take it down?
Yeah, I mean, they have a history of doing this. So anyone who...
Which points to the fact that despite Nintendo's reputation, people still are passionate enough to do this kind of stuff. You would think Nintendo would want to work with that, and that would be a relationship that they would want to nurture. But
right, and that's what drives me crazy is that for example, the video that announced the mod got 1 million views. Now, again, I want to stress that just because someone viewed the video doesn't mean they're going to go out there and do all the necessary work to make the mod happen, because with mods they can be finicky, obviously, but Nintendo, this is the moment where you step in and you hire this person and you're like, yeah, fucking make this for us and we'll sell it and people will buy it instead of just
Sonic Mania.
Yeah, look at Sonic, exactly, and I'm hoping that because Sonic Mania is doing fan-fucking-tastic. I'm hoping to see a sort of an industry that the old guard will recognize it and maybe change their attitude a little bit about mods. So we'll see. But in the interest of time, we have to keep plodding along here. Our next story, and we're almost done with the regular stories, I have to say. We got two. We got 3, but I'm going to do 2 because time. Yes. The first one we're going to talk about is an EU study, right? This is very, very interesting to me. A huge study was done about piracy. And what the study found was that piracy doesn't hurt game sales. It may actually help them. Now, there's a huge grain of salt that we have to mention with this study. The study was conducted via survey. It surveyed 30,000 consumers in 6 EU countries, the UK, Germany, France, Spain, Poland, and Sweden. And basically, they asked them a bunch of different questions about piracy. But because people might have a tendency to lie when asked, like, are you pirating stuff? There is a 45% error margin, unfortunately, that, means that we can't completely trust the answers here, but they're still really, really interesting. The study basically concluded that for every 100 games that are downloaded illegally, players actually legally obtain 24 more games than they would in a world where piracy didn't exist. Now, I've been talking for a long time, so I'm going to shut up. What did you guys think of this particular study?
Conrad? That's me filling in time before he kicks in. So that's me being a professional.
You're doing good.
Well, again, I apologize for the sound delay, so if this is going to sound weird, it makes me think of this concept that I've heard of before called of pirating and then buying. It's almost like treating like pirating as almost like a demo. Mm-hmm. I think when you have the opportunity for people to download a game, try it out, and then if they like it, they might actually spend money on it. You might see the situation of the opportunity to pirate leading to sales. That's how I would make sense of it. But again, a study like this might have trouble quantifying that. And I think that's where the margin of error comes from. So it's hard to pin down, but that's my thought on it. That's what I would think.
Yeah. And Mike, to your point, it's a pretty damn big margin of error. Which to be fair, they admit they admit that they go into the particulars of kind of questions that they asked or whatever. But I think that they make an interesting comparison in the article about how the same study, when it looked at movies, they did see a negative effect with piracy there, because
right.
you don't have that level of interactivity, and you might download you might torrent a game that's been hacked so that you can play it, but you don't get all the features. Maybe you can't go online. Maybe you can't complete XYZ extra quests. So it's almost like I don't want to say the new shareware, because that's not right, because this is not legal, but it's a really weird try before you buy. I would almost say that maybe just there's very few games that have substantial demos out now. Maybe that's something that they these companies need to invest in. But
I just want to highlight what Conrad wrote. You wouldn't download a car.
That's true. That's true.
I had to mention that. I agree. So as you pointed out, the study found that the same was not true of other entertainment mediums, movies, music, books, and that makes sense.
I would if I could, actually.
But with games, as you pointed out, you might not be able to play the multiplayer. You might not be able to experience the DLC, or you might not be able to play with your friends if there's a co-op element to the game. And I definitely think that demos need to be more of a thing, right? When we were growing up, demos were coming out all the time, especially during PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 era. And even though demos do exist somewhat on the newer generation, it's not the same. It's not the same at all. And it almost is non-existent on the PC market. Very little. And if people experience the game first, they're much more likely to purchase it. And it happened to me where XCOM had a free weekend, and I hadn't played XCOM. And I was like, oh, free weekend, let me check it out. And I was like, fuck it, I'm going to have to buy this game. This is too much fun. And they got me. So Same principle applies.
But isn't that great though when like a developer gets you like that?
Yes.
So I've been gotten like that too. Like I fucking love it.
Yeah.
Like it's awesome. Like I found this free game. I didn't have to risk anything.
Right.
You know, like I played it for a weekend for like 10 hours and fuck, I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah.
And then I'll play like 1 hour of it after that. But, but I don't feel cheated. I don't feel slighted, you know. I got to like legitimately try it before I bought it.
Right. And I want to mention real quick that the study did it didn't just flat out ask, have you pirated stuff, right? Because that would be too obvious. People would answer untruthfully. So they tried to suss out the truth a little bit. So, for example, they had questions that used piracy terms like ISO and ROM, or something to that effect.
ARG,
I
think was another one.
To see if people were familiar with that. And so people were familiar with those terms, but then claimed that they didn't pirate things, then their responses were kind of thrown out or viewed as most likely untruthful, right? Because if you're familiar with that, you're definitely familiar with piracy. So this is really cool. I'm hoping to see more kind of studies like this done, because obviously, piracy has been a thing for a long time, and some people obviously are like, yeah, whatever. People who are going to pirate the game weren't going to buy it anyway, and other people are like, no, this is hurting the industry. So we don't have a definitive answer, but maybe someday. Our last story, and I saved the best for last, involves the Atari Box. More details have come out about it, and I couldn't resist talking about this thing. So, this thing is being made by the zombie corpse of a company that calls itself Atari, but isn't really.
Hey, yeah, that's true.
And so basically, we know
they're owned by Infogrames now.
Yeah, okay, I have no idea who's Infogrames.
It's a French video game developer. That's all.
Okay,
they bought Hasbro.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
So we know that it's going to cost in the $250 to $300 price range, which is super high, much higher than people expected, right? Because at $300, you're competing with a Switch, you're competing with a PlayStation 4, you're competing with an Xbox. And we know that it's going to not use Android. It's going to use Linux, and it's going to be packed with an AMD customized processor with Radeon graphics technology. That might sound fancy, but actually both PlayStation and Xbox use, AMD customized processors with Radeon graphics technology, so it doesn't mean anything. It's also going to come packed with classic Atari games and supposedly newer titles as well, though nothing specific has been named. And even though I like the faux wood aesthetic here, I'm not going to lie, it looks cute. What do you think these guys are thinking? Do they even have a remote chance at like selling this thing? I can see Connor talking. Any second now.
And yeah, I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to wait for them to come out with more details on this thing. So it's like, it better end up doing more than I think it does.
I would argue the announcement of these specs is already more than we expected. Unfortunately, more in the terms of price as well.
Right. So some people are basically saying that this is an Atari branded, Steam box, essentially. Mm-hmm. That, they're going to make it, but what is it going to do that the existing consoles don't do already is the question. Well,
here's the thing. You mentioned the fact that it's chip design and stuff. It's similar to, the PS4, for example.
Yes.
So that would imply that they're going to go for like high grade games, but it's running on a Linux based operating system apparently. So right. maybe they're going to play like, I don't know if you guys have ever browsed like the Linux only option or Linux compatible games on Steam. The selection isn't that great. I would assume it'll play those games.
Isn't the Steam store itself built on Linux? Because I remember Valve joined the governing body for Linux or something like that to help them.
They might have joined it, but like, listen, there was a crazy drunk summer where I was like, I'm going to become a Linux guy, and then I saw how few Steam games like were available on Linux. I was like, maybe I will dual boot. So I don't think it's like as much as you would think. I could be wrong now because I haven't looked in quite a while, but I can tell you just from lately because of like all the work that I did with the Atari video I did recently. I've been kind of like really deep into like people in the Atari community. I can tell you like what they're hoping from this is that they're hoping that not only will it run like old, and when we're talking old Atari games, we're talking obviously 2600, 7800, 5200.
There's already things that can run that.
And your fucking calculator can run that shit,
right?
But they're looking for like stuff like the Lynx, the Jaguar, stuff that like maybe wasn't out there. But even that isn't going to be enough to sell this box to anybody.
No,
outside of a very niche market. So the fact that it's able to run this kind of stuff would make me think it's going to run like PC games to some extent, like Linux.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I think that's the clear implication. That was my takeaway, right?
But like pretty high end versions of one, at least at the console level. I mean, that's
sure. I mean, look, this thing is going to have SD card support, HDMI, 4 USB ports, and Ethernet, right? So,
I think it's important to point out no optical drive, so that saves Atari some money in the manufacturing of it. So that allows them to be profitable at a price point where maybe it would take Sony or whoever to like sell more units to be profitable.
That's a really important point, actually. Thank you for making that, Yahel. In case it's not obvious, from the pictures, this thing doesn't. There's no cartridge. There's no disc. There's nothing you insert into this console. This thing is, digital, 100% digital. And that actually might turn off a bunch of people, honestly, because unless you've got a really good internet connection at home, you're not.
Doesn't it have an SD card? Yeah, it has SD card.
SD card, but then you still have to download stuff to the.
But dude, like if it's playing like older games, especially if they're like specifically Atari games, and like,
oh sure, those are like a megabyte or something.
But I guess to your point, what you're saying is like if somebody. Because they say modern games very vaguely,
right?
So if they're playing, I don't know, like I'm sure this won't be one of them, but like what's that Lawbreakers or whatever?
Yeah, it's Lawbreakers.
Yeah, so because I think that one has Linux support.
That game's not doing well, by the way. That game,
I know it's not. It's
doing really really bad. Cliff,
I saw the fail.
Not having a good day. Not having a good summer.
But I one thing I noticed that was interesting was like they used the old Atari logo. They didn't use the bell-bottom logo.
Yes.
At least from what I could see. So that implies to me that they're going to really concentrate on like old school Atari games. And I almost wonder, obviously this like any console is being advertised worldwide, but maybe this is going to be something marketed more for like European and UK markets where the Atari ST, the Falcon, those kind of like 8-bit Atari computers are really, really big.
Maybe that's an interesting point.
The hardware is way more powerful than it needs to be. So I mean, I don't know, man. I'm just trying to figure this shit out because it doesn't make any fucking sense.
That's the thing. It doesn't, right? So I mean, everyone is going like apeshit over the NES and SNES Classic, but the Atari released, its own version of those. Like I don't want to call it the Atari Classic, but whatever it was, years ago. Like I remember, like 5-6 years ago, they were selling them in every pharmacy and
like $20 or less.
Yeah, it was like $20-$30, and it was just a box that you plugged it in and it had pretty much all the Atari games anyone gave two shits about.
Yeah.
So, anyone that wanted that would have bought that or any of the numerous, re-releases and, compilations that have come out over all the years. It's not like there's a market for this. So it obviously they can't get by on the strength of Atari alone. It's too late for that.
What would it take you guys to buy this at this price point? Let's say it came in at $250, which it probably won't, but at the low end, What would it take?
The only thing that would even remotely cause me to think about opening up my wallet is some sort of an exclusive. Because otherwise, I mean, I don't care about Atari. Atari is unfortunately a little bit too old for me. I never really, played during that time. And again, the compilations are really cheap and easy to get a hold of if I really wanted to experience them. So modern games, I'm already spoken for. I have a PC. I have a PlayStation 4. So unless there is some sort of exclusive that I really, really need to play, I don't see this happening for me. Or most people.
Conrad, anything? I love watching your lips move.
I love the delayed laugh when he's talking.
This is like the sequel to Time Cop. The further,
I would say that if the Atari Box ends up doing, if the Atari Box ends up doing literally everything that the Steam Box can do, you're throwing me off here. You're throwing off my groove here. Now I can't focus because, like Mike said, I only buy consoles almost entirely based on exclusives, and I think that if the Atari Box had some kind of really cool exclusive, I would start thinking about it. But up until then, I don't see the use for it.
So they need that killer app, basically.
I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, wait, you were still talking. I was unaware.
Yeah, they need a killer app. No, absolutely. I think this is going to be a massive dumpster fire when it comes out, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
They really do. Yeah.
What he said. So I promised you what the fuck stories, and what the fuck stories you shall have. We have two more of them. And the first one involves, I don't know. Let's do this one first. Sonic Forces, right? Which is the other Sonic game that's coming out. I don't think too many people care about Sonic Forces. I'm not going to lie to you. Sonic Mania has kind of like stolen all the thunder for Sonic fans, I think.
Atari Box, so.
Oh, yes. So like the claim to fame, if you want to even call it that, or the gimmick, let's do that. The gimmick for Sonic Forces is you'll be able to design a custom character within the Sonic world and do stuff with Sonic. I don't know. I didn't realize there was a demand for this, but apparently some people are into it. So this game, Sonic Forces in Japan, has a collaboration with obviously the company or the organization that makes the most sense for Sega to ally themselves with in Japan, and that is Hooters. The skimpy girls, the wings. Yeah. So if you live in Japan, you can visit them in Shibuya West, Ginza, and Akasaka, which are all located in Tokyo, and maybe get something for Sonic Forces. I really don't know what this is so weird to me. I don't understand at all why this is a thing.
I didn't even know that Hooters had expanded to Japan. Living in Florida.
Oh yeah, they're there.
We have the first Hooters ever in Clearwater, which is about 45 minutes from me, and I am appalled.
Yeah, this is so random. I wonder, like,
what
was the meeting like?
I love the picture from the article where Sonic looks pissed off that he's there. Number one. Number two, he's the one wearing the sash. He's the beauty queen.
That's right.
And it's true.
He's the belle of the ball.
And despite wearing giant gloves, I think some of these girls may have bigger hands.
But what I want to know is, like, what was that marketing meeting like? Like, okay, guys, Sonic Forces coming out. We need this to be a huge success. We need to promote the shit out of this game. Who do we align ourselves with? And then someone's like, Hooters. Tits sell. Let's do that. And the other person's like, brilliant.
This is so weird to me because Sega of Japan, I would assume because this, the Japanese Hooters, that Sega of Japan's involved, right? And Sega of Japan has always been real weird about anything to do with American anything. So I don't know. This is real weird.
The only angle I can think of that would work is if they had the girls dress up as like Sonic characters, and then you had like that furry niche come in. Yeah, that's the only one that's the only way that would work.
I don't know, man. And the picture is so weird. So it's like the left side of the picture, if you're looking at it, looks normal. It's like, okay, what you'd expect: 2 Hooters girls and Sonic looking pissed off that he's. And then to the right of it, it's like 2 dudes, but then like a lady like dressed in like a big T-shirt, and like she looks just like a fan. Like she's just like, okay, here's Sonic. Like she looks like Sonic's her boyfriend. She got dragged out to this. Like
I don't know. Maybe they just like paid her to be there. Like,
and then the people behind them all have their backs turned to them. Which
obviously
is quite the analogy for this partnership.
It's so weird. It's so weird. I don't know why this is a thing, but I'm sure the people in Tokyo are very excited to.
But here's the crazy thing, dude. There's nobody gets anything out of this. Nothing's being given. If you read the article, nothing's being given away at Hooters. Sega isn't giving away any Hooters coupons for like, I don't know, shitty wings or like.
Well, no, it says stuff. Hold on. It says the collaboration starts from the middle of October, and further information will be revealed in a few days. So we might have an update on the story next week.
What are they collaborating on? Blue like dyed chicken wings? Like
I don't know.
Whatever.
They're gonna randomly put like porcupine needles or something, or hedgehog needles in their food. And if your tongue gets pierced, then you win a free copy of Sonic Forces.
I will say this: I never realized until today that Sonic has 5 fingers.
Oh, does he? I think it depends on who's drawing it. I think
if he's at Hooters, he's got 5 fingers. I guess he needs
at Hooters. To better help him eat the wings, of course.
Yes, for the wings.
Yes. So our last what the fuck story. I love the delayed laughter for Connor. Like he comes in.
He's upset about the lack of Hooters Sega merch.
Yeah,
it's that delayed.
So our last story is pretty interesting. It involves Star Citizen, which is that game that if you're not aware, pulls in literally $2 million a month of funding for imaginary ships that don't exist yet. This game has basically been stuck in development hell. People keep giving them money for some weird reason, and so they kept expanding the scope of the game more and more and more. And it's not coming out anytime soon.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people who were in that initial phase of funding, because this was originally like a Kickstarter and stuff, are banding together and demanding refunds. And one guild in particular requested a $45,000 refund. And after a long time, like when I say a long time, I mean like several weeks, if not months of back and forth, they got it. Now, Cloud Imperium, which is the name of the developer, has come out and stated that they only issued a refund of $330, not $45,000. But frankly, I don't believe them.
Well, and the thread on Twitter, like they provided proof of the amount of the refund.
Yes. So in my opinion, they provided a lot of proof on their part.
Right.
To show that this was a real refund.
So were you guys a fan of, because Star Citizen, it's a Chris Roberts project from, the guy that created Wing Commander and started Origin. Were you guys a fan of his previous stuff?
I have to say, me personally, no. I was familiar with it, but I actually never really played his games. So, me, no. But I knew about him. What about you?
Me? I mean, I was a big fan of the Wing Commander series, so I didn't donate to Star Citizen, but I was definitely interested in it, and it sucks to see what like it's devolved into. Like it's a mess, man. It's a mess.
Mess doesn't even begin to. This is the dumpster fire of all dumpster fires, as far as I'm concerned, because this is a game that, like, how do I even explain this? Like, they know they're up shit creek without a paddle. Like, they know that they're fleecing these people at this point, as far as I'm concerned, and yet they are still taking money day after day, week after week, month after month. This game has raised over $2 million in April, May, June, July, and August.
That's crazy.
Each month, it has raised that much money because people are stupid, gullible morons, and they keep giving them money for imaginary spaceships and stuff that doesn't exist.
Yeah, so basically, like in 2.5 quarters, they've raised more capital than like a lot of indie developers raise in 2.5 years. Like it's obscene. And the Star Citizen, from what I remember, it was supposed to be out like a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yeah, so I mean, like, basically the game got divided into sections. Because remember, I don't know, this is kind of going back a little bit, but there was supposed to be a single player component and there was supposed to be a multiplayer component. And the idea was that you would play the single player, get a feel for all the mechanics, and then sort of go into the multiplayer where anything goes and you can trade or be a vigilante or whatever you want to do. And this game is supposed to be, the idea behind it is supposed to be seamless, right? In the sense that, think of what's that game that you like, Connor, that I think is dumb?
Well, he's gone, so.
Oh, is he? Did he leave the thing?
Yeah, he didn't appreciate you insulting his game.
I'm sure he would. I'm talking about the one that came out for like recently that was just called the Walking Simulator. That
No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky, yeah. So it's seamless, much like No Man's Sky, in the sense that you can like fly around anywhere and then land on the planet and walk around on the planet. It was supposed to. And then on top of that, they added like first-person shooter elements to it as well, where you could like equip yourselves with guns and shoot people and steal their stuff.
And Mike, I just want to point out, you might have said this because again, I am intoxicated. So if you already said it, stop me. But like, it wasn't like a person that requested a $45,000 refund. It was a guild. So it was a guild. It was a group of people that had requested that they had spent a bunch of money on these ships.
Right.
And they're the ones that ended up requesting the refund.
So, go ahead.
No. I mean, that's pretty much it. Well, I was just going to say, they're not the only guild that's, having some frustrations. So
to give you an idea, though, this game has, over the course of its lifespan, which is several years at this point, not going to lie, has raised, and I shit you not, $159,774,536.
That's insane. So just to put that into comparison. So from what I remember, Chris Roberts, when he did Wing Commander 4, which was already like the second full motion video Wing Commander game with like name actors like Mark Hamill and Malcolm McDowell. If I remember correctly, that one and Sam Bernard, that cost like $5 million. Now, obviously, let's say you adjust that for inflation, you say $10 million. You're telling me that he's earned enough to like make like 10 Wing Commander 4 games? Like, it's crazy. Like, that can't be like well managed money when you look at the product that they have right now.
No way. Absolutely impossible. So I mean, this I don't know if this game will ever come out. I mean, Chris Roberts, when asked about it, just says it's ready when it's ready. It'll come out whenever I think it's done. And I mean, he's got the money that I'm sure he could develop this thing for another 5-10 years pretty easily and still have plenty of cash left over. But I mean,
the thing that's killer is like Chris Roberts is a rich man. He could have probably, between his own money and getting some investors, developed this game already for a quarter or what it's been spent on it and had it out plus DLC stuff. But because like there's just money coming in, you know how it is, like when it's not your money,
Oh, sure.
It's whatever, and that's what it seems like. And it sucks to see that because like growing up as a kid, his games on Origin were like the first games that really got me into PC gaming, and just seeing like what it's delved into, what he has seemingly delved into, like it just sucks. Like, how can you not feel betrayed if you donated to this to this fundraiser?
I agree, and that's the thing, right? He got greedy because this was originally a Kickstarter that got funded 5-10 times over. I don't remember what they were.
And they kept adding like stretch goals from what.
Yeah, they were just like, oh, people want to give us more money. Okay, we'll take your money. We'll just create this other bullshit content. Give us $5 million more, and we'll whatever, whatever you want. You want someone with 3 tits on the planet Xanu? Done. Another $10 million, please. And yeah, no, this is like, I've lost all respect for this person. If they had just stopped at a certain point and said, we're good, let's just do this, and then go from there, that would be one thing. But I'm always amazed that this thing's still going.
I am too, and just to give you an idea of how popular it is, I live streamed Wing Commander, like the PC version of Wing Commander 1 or 2, I don't remember, maybe 6 months ago. And when I tweeted it out, I used a Star Citizen hashtag, and I ended up getting almost 200 people responded from that, over the next 10 hours or so. But I was shocked, and I don't know if that's them having some marketing people that are just doing bot replies or whatever, or retweets or what have you.
Sure.
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, they can certainly afford it. They got the money for it. But there's people that have a passion for reliving that Wing Commander glory days, but in a modern PC setting. And I don't know, man, it sucks. I wouldn't fucking donate any more money to this, but from what I understand, they have a lot of repeat donors. Someone
out there keeps, but the old proverb says, "A fool and his money are soon parted," and I think that's what's happening here. Yeah. Unfortunately, we are way over time.
Yeah, Chris Roberts.
I blame him.
It's his fault.
Clearly his fault. We've lost Connor, but I'm sure that if you were here, he would, have something insightful and witty to say. So just pretend he's there.
Connor will be DLC in Star Citizen if you donate.
That's right. That's most likely. So until next time, if you actually let me take one step back and say, if you at all enjoyed our podcast, please hit like, subscribe, leave a comment below. We'd love to hear from you guys. And we always want to
enjoy it.
Yeah. If you hate our guts, tell us. Because we always want to make the best show possible. So all feedback is good feedback. Until next time, I have been your host, Michael Schluger.
I've been your hell.
Have a great week of gaming. Push a lot of buttons for us and tweet at us at Pack Podcast. Until next time.
This has been a production of the GWW Radio Network. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Also, check out Geeks Worldwide at thegww.com for all the latest news, reviews, and opinions on video games, comics, movies, TV, cosplay, and more. Geeks Assemble!